أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله وحمدا كثيرا وهو الله لا إله إلا هو له الحمد في الأولى والآخرة وله الحكم وإليه ترجعون والحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصين معه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين رحمة للعالمين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل والصلاة والسلام على آله وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين كما قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. All the praise and all the glory belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, today is the Khushadi night. So I wish you, from the bottom of my heart, and also from my family to you and to all your families, Khushadi Mubarak, and also Eid Mubarak as well, which we just passed a few days ago. So on this occasion, I thought I would, discuss with you the importance of ilm, and knowledge, particularly portrayed by the Masumeen Imams. So, our Imam, our 10th Imam, Imam an-Naqi alayhi salam, his Wiladat took place in the year 212 al-Hijrah, and the Wafat took place in the year 254 al-Hijrah, which means that his total span of life was only, 42 years. And he was, buried in Samarra. Now, I want to speak about, importance of, knowledge, importance of ilm and knowledge, particularly relating to our 10th Imam, Imam an-Naqi alayhi salam. When we, think of, about all the creation in this world, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He is revealing about insan, He says that I have made him ashraful makhluqat, the best of the creation. But if you really think about it, if you really look, in relation to many other creatures, a human being really seems to be very inferior in comparison to many other creatures in many respects. For example, a human being is not as strong as an elephant. A human being does not have the capacity to fly like a bird. A human being cannot run as fast as a tiger. A human being cannot navigate like the birds do, as they fly, as they migrate. Take an example of a small, butterfly that you now see. They just, come up now in hot, summer. A butterfly, so small, hardly weighs even half a gram. And the wings are so fragile that you can pluck it without any strength at all. Yet it's the same butterfly, monarch butterfly, takes birth in warmer climate. And when the climate begins to change, they migrate. And you can check in the Google that a monarch butterfly flies up to 2,000 kilometers, or 2,000 miles. I don't actually remember now. I think 2,000 at least. If not 2,000 miles, at least 2,000 kilometers. Not one of them, not hundreds of them, but thousands of them. And people in Mexico and in Florida congregate at one particular place to see them flying and coming. Thousands of them. So in comparison to that, really then human beings are not, they don't have as much capabilities. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you are ashraful makhluqat, the best of the creation. Everything that I have created on this earth, in the heavens, what is in them and what is between them is for you to exploit, and for you to make your life and recognize the bounties and the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon you. This is insan. Allah made him superior to the angels. Insan is superior even to the angels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells angels to do the sajda. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blows of his own spirit in him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels to do the sajda. So insan becomes the masjud al-malaik. Insan whom even the angels did the sajda. How did this happen? What was it that that makes insan such great? It is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates Nabi Adam alayhi salam from the clay, from the dust. And then when he says, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ فَإِذَا سَوَيْتُهُ فَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. When I created him, I blew in him of my own spirit. So we carry within us the spirit, the ruh that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew in human beings that makes him ashraful makhluqat, the best of the creation. We carry in us, we carry in limited form what is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is Allah? What is asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, al-Malik al-Quddus, al-Salam, al-Mu'min, al-Muhaymin, al-Aziz, al-Jabbar, al-Mutakabbir, al-Khaliq, al-Bari, al-Mustawir, al-Ghaffar, al-Qahhar, al-Wahhab, al-Wahhab, al-Razzaq, al-Fatah. All the asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we carry in limited form. Just as Allah is Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. When you in Arabic language, if you take any noun and you put an article al before that, so the meaning of that particular word then becomes so extensive that you cannot fathom it. There is no end to it. So when you say Ar-Rahman with Ar-Rahman, Allah is the most merciful. His mercies you cannot count. But we also have got the qualities of mercy. Just as Allah is Ar-Rahman, we also got the quality. But we are not Ar-Rahman. We can say Ar-Rahman. हम में भी रहमानियत होती है, रहीमियत होती है. We have that as well because of that spirit that makes, the human being the most ashraful makhluqat. Through this then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then, with the ruh, He also has given us the aql and the intelligence, that we have. And all this aql, that we have, all the source of that is only revelation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Nabi Adam alayhi salam and then revealed to him the names. So revelation, education comes with the revelation. Human being is given revelation by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the first infusion of knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches Nabi Adam alayhi salam all the names. And among the names, the most of the unique of the names that he teaches them, all the names, he actually prophesies, to him about the advent, the final advent of Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. All the names, up to the end. The prophecy of the final messenger that will to come. It's very, very, it's absolutely unique, So, that is why when we read in, Hadith al-Qisa, by the way, that Hadith al-Qisa is not unique only to Shias. It is clearly recorded in the Sunni books as well, in the Sahih books as well, about the Qisa, this Qisa. So, when he is under the Qisa, when, there are, the Panjatan, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam are together under the Qisa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we read in the Qisa, sings, speaks about the praises, praises of them, that I have not created the sun and the moon and the stars and the oceans and the ships that plow except for the muhabbat of these. And Jibreel is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that who are these people of whom you are creating so much praise that you have not created the sun and the moon and the stars and the oceans and the ships that plow except for them. Who are these people? And what do we read? Fatimatu wa ba'luha wa banuha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught, Nabi Adam, other things as well. So the source of all the knowledge then, begins with actually the revelation, and the final of that is untainted Quran. There is no tahrif in the Quran. If you look, Marhum Ayatollah Khomeini rahimahullah, when he writes in his book Al-Bayan fi Tafsir al-Quran, he says that there is no tahrif in the Quran. And he gives, the names of some of the scholars who said, that there is, some changes in the Quran. He calls them al-kadhab. They are liars. There is no tahrif in the Quran. So so the Quran then is total ilm, total knowledge. Everything that is, it is in the Quran. Revelation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches. So, so the proof of the imamate then is based on the knowledge. This knowledge, that there is this special knowledge given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is ilm al-ladunni. And also two things that they have, the nas and the ilm. Nas is, what they have inherited from the previous imam. Their appointment and everything that they inherited from the previous imam and all the ilm that they have. Nas and the ilm makes them imams. And they're always taught through the Quran. How beautiful. You can take any dua, say for the sajadiyah, dua kumail, dua sabah, dua mashul, any dua that you take, you will see that they always teach from the Quran. They don't go to books in the libraries, in the sources. They have the Quran, the top of the knowledge. When we read dua kumail, what is the first line? Allahumma inni as'aluka bi rahmatika allati wasi'at kulla shay. Directly from the Quran. Afaman kana mu'minan kaman kana fasikan la yastawun. Directly from the Quran. If you read dua sabah, تولج الليل في النهار وتولج النهار في الليل وتخرج الحي من الميت وتخرج الميت من الحي وترزق من تشاء بغير حساب. All from the Quran. Each and everything you take say for the sajadiyah, you take any dua, and you find that the sources is also from always taught from the Quran. And therefore, that they were, feared, the Abbasids and the Umayyads had this great fear of them because they were going to lose their prestige was growing so much, that they were very much afraid, they were going to lose these, the importance. So they taught actually, from the Quran. What is the Quran? The Quran is a nur. One of the names of the Quran is an-nur. Quran is the light, the shadi. You know, in Ayat al-Kursi, you know, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بطاغوته ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام له والله سميع عليم الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياءهم طاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات. So ظلمات is darkness, nur is the light, the shine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us from the darkness to the light. So if we look then at the total history of the Imam, we know that the Umayyads came to power from the year 661 until the year 750, and then it was taken over by the Abbasids, who ruled from 750 to the year 1258. So if you look at the civilization that occurred during this period, that civilization was taught through the Imams, through the Masuin, alayhi salam. If you look at a chance, go into the, I actually use it for my students at the university as well. Islam, Empire of Faith. It comes into three parts. Look at the part 2 and you'll be surprised at the civilization that Islam brought. But 21st century, they say very clearly that our 21st century modernity would not have been possible had it not been for Islam. Islamic civilization. And that civilization, the teaching came from the Masumin alayhi salam, who taught through the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah. So, because of the fear of these, Umayyads and the Abbasids, they tried their best to actually discredit them. And, Imams always proved their superiority, through the knowledge. So, one day, in the time of the Abbasid, the Khalifa at the time was Mutawakkil, Lanatullah. If in the time of the Umayyads, the worst was Yazid. In the time of the Abbasids, the worst was Al-Mutawakkil. So in the time of Al-Mutawakkil, he gets a letter from the Christians, from the Christian, your top Christian, your clergy, who writes to this Khalifa and tells him, can you please help us? Because I'm trying to look. We are told that in the revelations of God, in the revelations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from all the revelations, there is one passage in the books of Revelation that has got 7 letters in the alphabet. These 7 letters, this is the only place in the Revelation in which there are no 7 letters. I looked at all our books. I looked at the Injil, I looked at the Zabur, I looked at the Torah. I can't find it. Can you check in the Quran if there is any passage or any chapter in which there are no 7 letters? So Mutawakkil gets his letter and he gets his scholars. And they try and they are baffled. So now they go to Imam an-Naqi alayhi salam. They call him. They say, this is the problem. And he said, you don't know? This is Surah Al-Fatiha. The 7 letters that are not seen according to that Christian priest, which this court of Mutawakkil could not think about or could not find. The letters are Tha, Jim, Kha, Val, Shin, Za, Za, and Fa. So when he says this Surah Al-Fatiha, Al-Mutawakkil says, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, now tell us why. What is the reason? And here now then, Imam an-Naqi is explaining that Tha is Thabur, destruction. There is no destruction in Surah Al-Fatiha. Jim is for Jahannam. There is no discussion of Jahannam. Kha is Khubat, which is loss. Valley for Zakum, which is tree in Jahannam. Shin is Shakawat, which is lucklessness. The is Zulumat. I told you, right, in the Ayatul Kursi as well, in the Ayatul Kursi, Zulumat and Nur. Zulumat means darkness. Zulumat. And Fa is Furuqat, which is separatedness. So, this is amazing. Nobody could do it. So, you see, Imams have always proved to the ilm. If you look at, even, to really, Surah Al-Fatih is absolutely unique surah. How many times did we, there is, one day, I gave a talk on, Surah Al-Fatiha. And, after a few days, I received a letter from a lady, from a woman. She said, to me in the letter that, it was quite interesting what you said the other day, that, that there is no time in 24-hour cycle where someone somewhere is not reciting this surah. So I was sitting in the clinic. I wanted to see my doctor, and I was sitting there in the clinic, and I picked up a book, a magazine. A magazine was an encyclopedia-based magazine, in which there was a question, which is the highest read chapter in any book? And the answer was the book of the Muslims, the Quran, the first chapter. There's no, in 24-hour cycle, there's not even 1 second where someone somewhere is not reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. And there's a beautiful, tafsir, if you look at, tafsir, you also in Tafsir, Mizan, in volume 1, there's a hadith, Hadith al-Qudsi, that comes from, it is actually narrated by Imam Raza al-Islam, then goes up to Imam Ali. Imam Ali actually listened it from Rasulullah, and Rasulullah said that Allah has said this. So this becomes Hadith al-Qudsi. And it's a long hadith, okay? So if you look at, last part of the hadith, in which this Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah that when my slave recites Surah Al-Fatiha, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Then when he says, Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, Siratal Ladzina An'amta Alayhim, Ghairil Maghdubi Alayhim Waladdallin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this belongs to my abd, and I have given it to him. And we say, Alhamdulillah. هذا لعبدي ولعبدي ما سأل. This belongs to my abd, and I have given to my abd what he has asked. This is Surah Al-Fatiha, where we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, abdi ma sa'ala. Another was, this person by the name of Ibn Suqayt. And he had, debate with our 10th Imam, and then he said that I have not been able to, defeat, So, there is a dialogue, that, takes place between Ibn Suqayt and our, 10th Imam. And, when they are discussing about, what is truth. And, Imam says, the problem was, that if nothing happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if nothing happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then if someone does anything wrong, then why should it be the fault of the doer? It is the fault of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is His will. There is nothing that happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really speaking, Imam al-Naqi al-Islam really replied, so well. He said, yes, it is the will of, if I'm hungry, and if I want to eat something, it is my will what I'm going to eat. Whether I'm going to eat fish and chips or biryani or rice or whatever, it is my wish. But once I've eaten, my will ends here. Then I have no will. Then it is of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether that food will digest or not digest, that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How beautiful reply. So we have got a will. To the will, what we can do. That's it. We can't do anything more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will is the real will. And the Ibn Sukkot actually says, yes, but people have got, intelligence. So Imam says, yes, people have got, intelligence, but, if they don't use intelligence, then all their intelligent mind becomes disuse atrophy. You know what's disuse atrophy, right? Disuse atrophy, I'm sure that if there's any doctors here, that they will actually tell you what is disuse atrophy. Disuse atrophy is, when you have got some blessings, that you have been given, and you don't use those blessings, then it becomes disuse atrophy. So, for example, I see this brother, doing his hand like this. So, if I decide to myself, that I'm going to tie up my hand, I don't want to do anything with my hand. I don't want to do anything wrong with my hand. I'm going to tie up my hand like this. This is a healthy hand. And I keep it tied up for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And then I remove the bandage. What would have happened to my hand? It will not work. It's called disuse atrophy. I tie up, blind. I tie up my eyes, my normal eyes. I don't want to see anything bad in this world. I tie up and I keep it tied up 3 months, 4 months. When I open the bandage, what would happen? I'll be blind. I would not be able to see. That's called disuse atrophy. So Imam says that, that if people do not use the intellect, then they follow what they have learned from their fathers and their forefathers. And that is why there's a problem. When they go only by the traditions, only by the rituals, only by the tradition that they learned from their fathers and their forefathers, which makes no sense, then it is disuse atrophy, then they cannot use their intelligence. So, this actually reminds me, of one incident of, Sufi Sheikh, so today, Kushali night, still have got some time. So, let's also, laugh a little bit as well, So, there was, Sufi Sheikh. Now, the Sufi Sheikh, was, always saying that nothing happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Razi barazai rabbas khalas. And he was famous, for that. Nothing happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one day he was actually walking on the street, that day it had rained, and there were some youths, standing in the corner of the street. When they see the sheikh actually passing, they wanted to tease him. So they, take, the mud, because it was a rainy day, so, the sand or the earth had become a bit muddy. So they make, a ball, muddy ball, and they throw it at him. And it went, one of the balls actually went and hits him on the back, Sufi Sheikh. So he turns around, to look, and he sees, some youths, and they're laughing, ha, 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 ha. Razi Baradeh, so Allah ki mercy hai. Razi Baradeh, Allah wanted this to happen. Yeah, Allah wanted this to come and hit you, so it came and hit. It's not our fault, it is Allah's fault. And he turns around, he looks at them, and he laughs and says, yes, I know, but I wanted to know that which shaitan Allah has used for this act. Did you understand this? Which shaitan has Allah used, So, it is amazing, what our imams have actually done. And, it is actually, through the institution, the tenth Imam also, set up, the institution of Wikala. What is Wikala, right? Wikala is, Wakil. So, because the, Abbasids, very, very, very strict, they were very much afraid. They had, most of the time they had put our imams under house arrest. That, nobody could actually visit them. So a 10th Imam is the one who started the institution of Wikala. Wikala means wakil. So, there are people who then go to him, ask, questions, and then get the reply, and then this wakil would come and tell the the followers, the true Muslims, that this is the right thing to do. So this was a blessing, because in the time of Ghaiba, then this institution of Wikala became absolutely important, and until now, this institution of Wikala is very, very important. The other thing, that I wanted to also, speak about was, the problem of, Ghuluwa. You see, this problem of Gulat was quite, rampant. That, people, because of their own traditions, because of their own rituals, they wanted to do things what they learned from the parents, from the forefathers. Some of those rituals were totally false. And also, that they were coming up, false ahadith, that I've heard this from Imam who told me this, and therefore, this becomes like a reality. But it wasn't so. As a matter of fact, it was, I think it was Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam who actually said that, that if you hear from anyone that a Sadiq has said this, do not believe it until first you check it with the Quran. If the Quran agrees with it, then yes, then the hadith is sahih, otherwise it's not. Because of the problem of Ghuluwa, because the problem of Gulat was quite actually rampant at the time. So, this one, they actually, at the time of Imam Ali ibn Talib as well, when you raise someone, when people raise someone, you take a human being and raise him to the status of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is shirk. It is shirk fi zat. Okay, so, in the time of Imam Ali ibn Talib some people, had raised, they gave Imam Ali the divinity, the status of divinity. And Imam Ali actually, there are actually reports where he actually took a man, threw him in the fire, and told him that you will burn in Jahannam. I'm not God, I'm not Allah. So you see, and you see, so the problem of Gulat, so they actually fought against, and they spoke against, the problem of Ghuluwa as well. Now I told you as well that that in the time of in the time of the Umayyads, Yazid was the enemy number one. In the time of Umayyads, it was the Al-Mutawakkil. In the time of Abbasids, it was Al-Mutawakkil. Now you see this actually very, very clearly that that our imams from our first imam to our sixth imam, except for the first imam of course, but most of the imams up to the sixth imam are actually buried where? They are buried in Medina. But after the sixth imam, seventh imam, eighth imam, ninth imam, 10th imam, 11th imam, they are all buried not in Medina, because the Abbasids were very afraid of them. And therefore, they actually removed them from Medina. They were doing very well in Medina, they had the school, and they, propagating ilm, more and more. But they were, removed from there, and they were put under house arrest. And so therefore, then you find that after the sixth imam, all the rest of the imams up to 11th imam are not buried in Medina. They're either buried in Kazmin or Samara. Imam is buried in Mashhad, Iran, but all the others are outside Medina. So here then seventh Imam is he's in Kazmia, or eighth Imam is in Mashhad, or ninth Imam is in Kazmia, or 10th Imam is Samara, 11th Imam is also in Samara. And the Shias were also involved in the horrendous acts of Gulat, and this was actually fought very clearly by the imams, and so therefore alhamdulillah that we are and we have to remain on the right path, and the right path is the Quran and the teaching of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That is the only path, that is the true path of Islam, that is the path that is recorded not only in Shia books but in all the Sunni books as well, very, very clearly. And very, very clearly also, the time of Ghadir, whom is very clearly discussed in the Sunni books as well, in Sahih Muslim, very, very clear hadith of, Qadir Khum. Man kuntu mawlahu fa'adha aliyun mawlahu. Very clear declaration, that we have. And also, the last ayat in the Quran, the last ayat of the Quran, al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam deena. All this is the truth that has brought to us from the Quran and from the Sunnah of Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this majlis from us. And I do a very special dua, inshallah, for all of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in our ilm. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep us on the right path. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallu ala Nabi.